Hey guys, I'm going to read chapter 9 of Toliver's Secret for you. We only have a couple more chapters to go, so by next week we'll be finished this book. And if you remember when we left off, Ellen didn't make it to Elizabethtown, right? She ended up in Perth Amboy. And you're on the computer because you're watching me. So do a quick little Google direction search and look up Perth Amboy, New Jersey to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and you can see um, how long or what the distance would be that Ellen had to walk. Because those are actual real towns. Perth Amboy is a real town that exists today, and so is Elizabeth. Now, it used to be called Elizabethtown. Now it's just called Elizabeth, New Jersey. All right, so if you're interested, I think you should be, because if we were in class, I would be showing you that. But I haven't figured out how to show what I'm looking at on the screen. I'll get there, don't worry. All right, so here we are, chapter 9. And Ellen has to somehow get to Elizabethtown to get this secret message to Mr. Shannon. Running was easy enough at first. Swinging her blue bundle at her side, Ellen followed a company of soldiers stepping along in double time to the fast beating of the drums. And after the men had come to the end of town and turned into the fields to their campgrounds, she trotted behind the wagon trains. She could see that the wagons were piled high with things for the soldiers' camps, chests and canvas tents, and great iron pots for cooking. On either side of the road, soldiers were setting up tents and building shacks. There was a bright red glow of campfires back in the field as far as she could see. A pale blue haze of smoke drifted over the fields. It frightens me to see so many men getting ready to fight our army. The thought of the messages in her loaf of bread made her run all the more quickly. It kept her from thinking about how hungry she was now, and how the cold wind at her back cut through her wool jacket. But after she had passed the noisy hubbub in the fields around the camp, Ellen slowed down, for the road was rough and there were no drums beating a quick march to help her hurry. If I can't run all the way to Elizabeth, she panted, at least I can keep up a fast walk. I'll get there before dark. Except for a group of horsemen who dashed past her, there was no one on the road that wound through the snowy countryside. There's something weird about this road, she thought to herself. It looks like the roads back home, but it's different. As far as she could tell, there were the same snowy fields and fences made of the gnarled roots of trees, the same brown houses close to the road, and the same orchards with a few dried apples clinging to bare branches. But there were no people anywhere. There were no cows in the barns, no sheep in the sheepfolds, nor even chickens pecking in the farmyards. It was like walking in a strange, silent dream. There must be people inside, she thought, for in spite of the tightly closed windows, she could see thin whiffs of smoke drifting up from the chimneys and blowing away in the wind. What a strange place. Not like Long Island. The people there had been friendly when she and Mother walked the 10 miles to New York in November. Sometimes they had been asked to warm themselves by the fire. New Jersey was different. There was nothing to do now but just keep marching along by herself. I can make a connection there with Ellen saying how strange it was that no one was really outside. All that houses were kind of shut up. Doesn't it sound like what we're going through right now? Right? Everybody's stuck inside. I know you can go out in your yard, but there's no one traveling on the road, so it's pretty crazy that what Ellen's seeing there, we kind of feel like it going on here, right? New Jersey was different. There was nothing to do now but just keep marching along by herself. She remembered a song her father used to sing when he'd come home after drilling with the village militia. Remember, a militia is like a little group of men who are trained to fight at any time. Well, not really trained, but they practice to fight at any time within towns. Blow the trumpets, to arms. That was all she could remember at first. From the east to the west, blow the trumpet to arms. Father had told her Tom Paine wrote it and called it the Liberty Tree. Thomas Paine from Bordentown. Let the far and the near all unite with a cheer in defense of our Liberty Tree. Father's eyes really sparkled when he sang that song. She liked to remember him that way. Let the fear and the near, she chanted a rhythm for her marching feet. Let the far and the near all unite with a cheer in defense of our Liberty Tree. Let the far and the near all unite with a cheer. Her voice grew strong as she sang it over and over. In defense of our Liberty Tree. Keeping time to her song, Ellen rounded a bend and stopped short at what she saw. The road disappeared in a woods. She had seen the woods ahead, but she hadn't thought that the road would go right through the middle of it. Since the winter branches were bare, she could look deep into the forest of brown tree trunks and evergreens, trees beyond trees as far as she could see. They seemed to go on for miles. The lonely road curved around a huge pine tree and disappeared. Everywhere there were sure to be unknown dangers, prowling animals, bears, thieves. She could go on no further. I can't do it. I can't go on. But you must do it, Ellen. I can't. I'm only 10. A courier's waiting for your message. I can't. I won't. There's naught else to be done. You must. Ellen stood and looked at the dark road curving ahead into the silent forest. Well, when there's something hard to be done, she said at last, just square your shoulders and start. She pulled her cap over her ears and raced down the road into the woods, looking from side to side as her feet flew over the frozen ground. Behind every tree seemed to lurk a monster. Under every bush a wild and hungry animal waited to spring out at her. If only I could get to the end of the woods, she gasped. She could almost feel things clawing at her back, but she dared not to look over her shoulder to see what they were. Run faster, Ellen, run faster, she cried as she felt the wind rush past her face. When at last she had to slow down, gasping for breath, she feared she would be flung to the ground and torn apart. Oh, sorry, my computer fell. But nothing happened. There were no monsters behind her. She couldn't see not even one squirrel or one small rabbit. The woods looked quiet and serene. Patches of fresh white snow lay on the carpet of brown leaves. Snow flecked the trunks of the great forest trees and collected in drifts like white pillows of the branches of the evergreens. Red berries that had not been eaten by the birds sparkled on dogwood branches. If there were any animals here, they were asleep in the burrows or hollow logs. All around her, the woods were peaceful. Annabelle would like this. Ellen surprised herself with the thought. The dogwood berries made her think of her cousin. Last winter they had fun decorating the church for Annabelle's wedding. When they went to the woods to gather greens and red berries, Annabelle had cried out happily, "Why, the forest is more beautiful in winter than it is in summer." The forest was beautiful, and Ellen was no longer afraid of it. As she trotted along, she realized she no longer was fearful at all. After a while, the quiet was broken by the sound of a dog barking and the thudding of a horse's hoofs on the hard, dark dirt road. Ellen looked over her shoulder and saw a small dog jumping angrily at the heels of a skinny old horse. Paying no attention to the dog, the horse plodded along heavily. The steam from his nose looked like the steam from a kettle on the hearth. The rider was a man so thin he seemed to be made of sticks of kindling, wrapped in fluttering coat. His chin rested on a bunch of straw at his throat, and a long pointed nose seemed to hold it in place. From each arm hung a big woven basket, limp and empty. Ellen slipped behind a pine tree, but the little dog had seen her and ran in circles around her feet, barking wildly. "Why are you hiding there, boy?" the man called out, in a thin, high voice with a twang at the edges. Ellen held her breath. We're going to stop there for now. I will finish chapter 9. This will be part 1. We'll do part 2 the next day, okay? And just think about it. I don't need you to give me a prediction or anything unless you want to. But think about what you think, who this person might be. Is it somebody that is a good person, somebody that's not? All right, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.